Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with our friend Roberta from WellSpan Health. How are you there, friend?
I'm wonderful, and I have another new setting.
I was going to say,
The
new
refrigerator's in the
geography.
back.
We are throwing people off.
That's it. I'm in a lunchroom today, so me and myself.
I was going to say, you got to do what you got to
COVID,
do.
COVID, we're not even allowed to eat together anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
one person at a time in the lunchroom,
yeah.
because
So,
it has gotten that bad, and we need to
yeah,
all do the right thing as the holidays coming up.
yeah. Wear your masks. Just stay at home. And I'm looking at it as, how can I make the best lemonade given these lemons?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It-
Totally. Zoom, FaceTime, whatever you have to do. You can be connected to family just
Yeah.
in a different way. Everybody make their own food and you can sit and eat together
Yeah, I
on a
think I'm
Zoom
gonna
call.
show. Yeah, I think I'm gonna show a big turkey and say, "Mom, turkey," and she'll think that's the funnest thing in the world, and we'll just chat about turkey. And
There you go.
I think I'll do that.
And our topic today is death over dinner.
Okay,
So it's the perfect Thanksgiving topic. I have to tell you, Kelly, I'm so excited to talk about this today.
death over dinner.
Death over dinner. It is a thing. It is a real thing. So
Okay,
let's
okay.
talk
I
about it.
literally have no idea what death over dinner is. She said we're gonna talk about that, and I was like, okay. So it's real, and Roberta's gonna talk about it, and we're gonna ask all the fun little questions. So hit it, my
Yes.
friend.
So you know how exciting being on the West Coast is because they're all zany and creative and innovative.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if it was Seattle or Portland, but this gentleman decided, just like we talked about with the Hello Game and we talked about with the Death Cafe, how do we get people in a comfortable way just to have a conversation about death and dying and what they think and what they've experienced and what they want and what they need to do. So he created Death Over Dinner. And there is an actual website. You Google Death Over Dinner. They have an instruction guide. They have invitations. So they have ready-made invitations for you. They have a menu for dinner. So they have several different types of menus. And they have questions. So they have pre-prepared questions and they walk you through how to create your dinner event. And they have a little video of a dinner that they hosted. And all of the people talking and laughing. And because, you know, when we share a meal together, and when we share a glass of wine together, there is if it's loving. Now, there are meals we share together that are not loving meals. They're very tense and argumentative meals. But if we're sharing a loving meal, we're sharing food, we're sharing Pepsis or a glass of beer or a glass of wine, you know, all of our defenses come down somewhat.
Yeah.
And we're just a lot more open. And so that's his concept, and the team that he works with is that by sharing a meal together, by just having discussions over a meal, you can really learn a lot. And you can learn a lot from each other. That's what we know with the Hello Game. That's what we know with the Death Cafe. It's both educational and therapeutic. For people that are still in a grieving cycle, whether that's because someone passed away last week or someone, in my case, passed away 14 years ago. You know, I will always remember our Thanksgivings and our Christmas together. Not that they were good, because my husband always had terrible, terrible anxiety about the holidays because he couldn't see his kids often, because there was a battle on being able to spend time with his children. And so we managed to figure out a way to have our own celebrations. And when we did that well, yeah, it was fabulous. But 14 years later, I always remember that.
Yeah.
And so your grieving journey never ends. It just gets better. As you deal with things. And Death Over Dinner is a great time to share with other people how you get through things and how you deal with things, how you deal with holidays. And we need to normalize this conversation, as we've talked about before, Kelly.
Yeah.
We avoid it way, way too much in our culture. And it's a place for celebration. It's a place to help people have a good quality of life death. So how do you get the best quality of life while you're dying? You do that by not being in the hospital, not being in an ICU, being surrounded by people you love, being cared for, having your pain managed, but really being in comfortable surroundings. And family members who have lesser anxiety and depression have figured out a way to bring in palliative care very early when somebody has a chronic illness, because you can have palliative care for years and years.
Right.
And then bring in hospice in the last 6 months, and really for 6 months worth of time.
Yeah.
Have hospice supporting you as the person who's dying, have hospice supporting your family members or your loved ones, being able to give you that support so that you don't have to end up in a hospital and you can have it in a way that's peaceful. If you've ever watched the movie Being Mortal, there's a clip in Being Mortal. This is a movie that was done by Atul Gawande. Frontline did a piece back in 2015. There's an hour-long clip that you can find on YouTube. And one of the pieces is a gentleman who has a terminal illness who's declining very rapidly. And he and his wife have a long conversation with the doctor. And what he says is, you could do more for me medically, but I don't want it. I want to spend my last 4 weeks at home on the farm. And so he goes to the farm. They put a hospital bed in the living room. He's right by a window so he can look out on the fields where the horses and the cows are. He has conversations with his great-grandchildren and his grandchildren. He talks about his dying with a grandson who's probably 10. He says, I don't know that I want to talk about this, Grandpa. And Grandpa talks with him about it, and he says, well, what do you think? Well, I don't want you to go. I don't want to leave you either, but that's what's going to happen, and I'm fine with it. And they hug. And then the next clip is this gentleman saying, I think these 4 weeks have been the best of my life because I've been connected to the love of my family and friends. So friends came to visit him, and he died very, very peacefully with the help of hospice and his family. And it's just, it's so eye-opening. That's why Death Over Dinner is a way to, bring out your advanced directives and talk about them, talk about whether or not anything's changed. I have a colleague whose mother is so into the 5 wishes that every Thanksgiving she brings out her copy, puts a copy at the place setting for that family member. If there's a new family member, they get a blank 5 wishes. And before they serve Thanksgiving dinner, she sits down and says, okay, everybody, how are you doing? Is this still accurate? Do we need to update it? What do we need to talk about? Is everybody healthy? So this year she'll have to do it over Zoom, but they call that Death Over Dinner, and they do it every Thanksgiving. And it's a celebration of their gathering. It's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of knowing exactly what each other wants and how they can support that.
And it's healthy. It's a healthy conversation to have.
It is a healthy conversation.
Yeah.
And so that's what this whole concept of Death Over Dinner is about. The gentleman wanted people to gather. And if they needed help, he's giving them the tools to do that. You just go to his website. You can see everything down to what kind of silverware and napkins are you going to put on the table.
You know what?
What are you going to serve?
As much as I was giggling about that, I was thinking, but you know what? You need that to make so that stuff is easy, so that you can just not have to think about that and then move on to the part that's much more intense, that you need to have a conversation about. Not that it needs to be intense, but that you might be apprehensive to have that part of the conversation. So that you also don't have to worry about the food, which is interesting. Roberta and I were talking about food before this, so this is actually really fascinating because, like, you would think, okay, I'm going to do this like death over dinner event. What do I cook, right? And I, who likes to cook and show my love through food, I would be beside myself trying to plan that menu
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't want to. So now you just like done.
That's it. It's all
Make it.
scripted for you. And just like death cafes, we have tea and scones. This you're going to have a full dinner. So, you have relaxing time to eat and think and share and relax and have dessert and laugh. All those wonderful things that you can do in these conversations. And when you're celebrating, they're much better to have than when you're in a crisis. And we wait too long. We wait till we're in a crisis. We wait till our loved one can't share anything with us. And the other thing that Atul Gawande, who's a surgeon that works with the Institute for Healthcare Improvement and Adriande Labs, so that's his research arm for this work. He says, as a surgeon, when he gets into these situations and he says, what would your father want? He says, more often than not, family members say, I don't really know. We never talked about it. And then you're stuck.
Yeah.
You're stuck trying to determine, what should I do? Am I doing the right thing? And then you're stuck with all of the guilt of, I shouldn't have decided that. I should have decided this. I should have waited longer. I should have. And you do the best you can, but the more information you have that's direct from the source, you don't have to second guess what you should do.
Right.
You've got it written down in a document that you can use, that you can show doctors. The doctors can then help you make those decisions in an informed way. And you don't have to remember to, what did she say or when did she say it? And is this the most current? You've got something that's legally binding and you're able to implement. And even with your siblings, you're able to implement that. And or other family members who say, no, you can't do that. You have to do this.
Right.
And that's exactly the opposite of what your loved one wanted. You've got documentation in hand that's been signed off by that person. That is their legal document. So starting with death over dinner, starting with a death cafe, starting with a hello game, whatever way that makes it easy to talk about, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've said this several times, and next Thursday might be a wonderful opportunity for people to try something. Try something. And remember, it's not about you have to be wildly successful and you'll be graded on it and then WellSpan will know. And none of those.
Oh.
Just try something.
Yeah.
Just ask.
And unfortunately now we're not going to be cooking a dinner for anybody except ourselves. We're going to be more isolated. But as you and I were talking earlier, set up a Zoom call, set your dinner in front of you, have everybody else have their dinner in front. So let's all have dinner at 5:00. And then I'm going to pull up the questions that we could talk about death and dying and living and celebrating and what brings our life meaning. And if we only had 6 weeks, who do we want to see? What do we want to do? And how do we want to go?
Yeah, it's that see it as an opportunity to learn more things. Don't see it as an opportunity to, well, that means mom will, no. You get to learn stuff about people that you didn't know before.
Yeah. And if you're grieving, again, it's very therapeutic to have this conversation.
Yeah.
To have a conversation about where you are in your grief process.
Yeah.
What's going to help you, because the more you can talk with others, the more they know how best to support you.
Yeah.
And just having somebody listening.
It can
listening. Holidays are really hard for people who have had a loss in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it takes 5 years to really get to the other side of grieving. It's not a 6 month, it's not a year, it's not 2. It's really 5, and people don't understand that. So too many people say, well, just move on, just get over it. And that's not our journey. And so what I love about these conversations is we're really helping people think about what's going to happen during the course of somebody's decline and impending death, and what's going to happen afterwards, and how do we make sure that what happens before really supports the healing of what needs to happen afterwards. And that's why you and I keep encouraging everybody watching this to just start.
Yeah.
Just start. You don't need all of this, but if you do need this,
Right.
Death Over Dinner is out there.
Right.
Hello Game is out there. If you need the tools and support, I can provide those to you, but you can also go to these other wonderful companies who are trying to help us all.
That's fantastic. Roberta, as always, thank you so much. Have a wonderful holiday, everybody.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.